You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL, episode 37. We are absolutely packed on a Labor Day podcast. I know it's not the usual day or the usual time, but you know we got to audible as life happens to us. But I could not bring you guys this content as football is officially here again. We have a packed episode 37 for the show tonight. Deion and Shedeur Sanders and Colorado have officially arrived in college football. Didn't even know I was going to be talking college this year, but you know what? The game was way too damn good to not bring it on the show. The Lions at the Chiefs NFL season opener preview. Chris Jones claims he will hold out until week 8 until he gets that extension with the Kansas City Chiefs. The top 15 NFL teams ahead of week 1. Mike Evans wants a new deal before week 1. And the complete NFC and AFC postseason predictions for Super Bowl 58. You guys already know. Get in the chat, get in the comments as we go through tonight's episode. Scan the QR code here for every bit of the NFL with AJL social media and podcast content. If you can't find me at the NFL with AJL, if you can't find me, you're simply not looking hard enough. But again, the one-stop shop is right there for the QR code. Wherever you're at, please like the show. Excuse me. Share the stream. Comment on the stream. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Want to give y'all love real quick. You have officially given me my biggest YouTube video with the Isaiah Simmons trade. 5,200 views and counting. We are skyrocketing to 600 subs. I'm going viral on the real estate account. I'm going viral on the podcast account. Wouldn't be possible without you guys. So you know I got to give thanks and give some love. And I'm not going to waste anyone's time, as this game on Saturday did not waste anyone's time. I was actually at my little cousin's birthday party at Urban Air, glued to this screen in between these, trampolines and rope climbings and whatnot. Happy birthday, Kehlani, 7th birthday. Love you. It was so good being there. But literally while I was watching this game, I cannot believe what was happening, because nobody can sit here and say that they expected Colorado to actually go in to TCU, who was the runner-up in the national championship. Now, let alone, yes, they did get shelled out to the NFL. And I guess the 17th ranking was more of what you were last season more than what we're going to expect from you in 2023. But as we all know, Colorado upsets TCU in an amazing season opener. Deion Sanders' debut at Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shiloh Sanders, Dylan Edwards, all the players that we saw making an impact on this game. And if you're a TCU fan, go ahead and click off the pod. If you're a Colorado fan, go ahead and turn your listening ears on, because this is strictly about what the Colorado Buffaloes did on Saturday and the Coach Prime effect, how it's showing us already what it's going to do, what's going to happen. And he is great for college football right now. It's a different era. Let's not kid ourselves. It's totally a different era for college football with the transfer portal, this, that, and the third. But they do win 45-42. We'll start off at the top with Shedeur Sanders. People saying that Shedeur was only good because he was protected by his daddy as at an HBCU coming from Jackson State is absolute utter bullshit when you look at Shedeur Sanders as an actual NFL prospect, which he has become even with just this one game at Colorado. He was already a prospect at Jackson State, but we know the HBCUs aren't necessarily shed a line on. Now, I'm not going to say he's a first-round talent like I've heard a lot of my favorite shows out there and a lot of people that I respect in the industry saying just yet, because we know how college football can be. It makes or breaks, quarterbacks, especially in the NFL when we're talking about what type of college defenses are you playing against? Are you really playing against SEC competition, ACC? What conference are you really coming from to see that defensive competition? But Shedeur Sanders damn sure played like a first-round NFL prospect. We want to talk about Caleb Williams, Drake May. I can't remember the quarterback for Texas, but we know we've got some quarterback prospects in this draft. Shedeur Sanders, I believe, will firmly insert himself into the first-round conversation potentially as a quarterback because of the type of talent he was able to show us, and not even just because of that one game, but if you've watched Shedeur Sanders' tape, you will know exactly what he brings to the table: the accuracy, the mobility, the off-platform throws, seeing the field, the short throws, over the middle, deep pass, pocket presence, composure, no turnovers, essentially mistake-free football. And I had to ask myself as I was watching Shedeur playing this game, I was like, damn, am I looking at another Jalen Hurts right now? Am I watching a 6'2" quarterback that's got a good build, can deliver the ball, can see the field well, is very intelligent, is a great character, and not to mention he's the son of Deion Sanders, so you know he's a crazy athlete. Am I looking at another Jalen Hurts in front of me? And when I saw him out there, when I've looked at some of his tape, when you look back at his numbers, like, it is very impressive what Shedeur Sanders is doing right now. You look at 2021 Jackson State, 66% completion, 3,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions with a 151.7 passer rating. 2022, still at Jackson State, again, under Deion Sanders. Ups that completion percentage to 70.6, another 500 passing yards with 3,732, 40 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So he got better in those departments, less picks, more touchdowns, and he brought the passer rating up to 160.4. And of course, in the one game with Colorado already, 80.9% completion, 510 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, no interceptions, and a 200.1 rating in this game. He set the Colorado football record for most passing yards in a game, and it was the most yards by an FBS quarterback entering their debut since 1969. And the numbers don't stop there. Again, you guys better have your listening ears on, because the numbers that actually came out of this performance, and when you dig into what Colorado's done and how they played against TCU, absolutely insane. We look at Travis Hunter playing both sides of the football, playing 144 total snaps, 80 on offense, 64 on defense, became the first D1 athlete in 20 years to have 100 receiving yards and an interception in the same game, shattering the previous Colorado record of 114 for most snaps played in a single game. Yes, Travis Hunter was playing wide receiver and was also playing corner. More on Travis Hunter here. He led Colorado in receiving yards, 11 catches for 119 yards. Great 43-yard grab from 43 yards on a 3rd and 16 that was late in the game to keep that Colorado drive alive. Now, defensively, again, he played on the other side of the ball. Defensively, Deion also says that Travis Hunter is a number 1 pick on both sides of the ball. That's how much he believes in his players. We'll get more into prime here in a second. Defensively, though, he recorded a critical interception deep in Colorado territory to end that TCU drive, and he also added a touchdown-saving tackle and 3 pass breakups. This is one player playing both sides of the football here. Freshman running back Dylan Edwards was absolutely insane in this as well. He launched himself, what some people say, into the Heisman consideration with this performance, no doubt about it. 177 yards from scrimmage, 4 total touchdowns. First time a Colorado Buffalo has reached the end zone that often in a game. 2 short catches to the house for 75, 46 yards. He did just have 6 carries for 4 yards apiece, so that gave him 24 yards in the game. But he also caught 5 passes for the 135 yards and had 142 yards after the catch, with him catching some of those in the backfield, if that kind of confuses you there with the numbers. But you look at him, he's a mismatch with the game-breaking speed and the ability to really make people miss. Now, let's get into the little bit of the what wasn't so good necessarily about this game between Colorado and TCU. As a lot of people were talking about the defense, of course, we know that Shedeur Sanders had 510 yards. We know that Colorado only rushed for about 60 yards. We know that TCU ran all over the yard against Colorado, and they threw the football okay. Chandler Morris did have 2 interceptions. And of course, Colorado did have the fumble as well, but they win the turnover battle there. So before, what I hear a lot of people saying is, oh, I want to see more. And don't get me wrong, I want to see more as well, but it wasn't meaningless. It wasn't awful. This was a debut on the road. You're an underdog by 20 and a half points. So we'll just say 21 points, and you go in there in your debut and win. We'll dig into that a little more later. But to understand the defense in this game, yes, it wasn't great for either side. Looking at Colorado's D-line, they didn't have a sack. They didn't have a tackle for a loss. And the Buffs were credited with just 2 quarterback hurries, gave up 262 yards rushing. But their offensive line was okay. They gave up 4 sacks, only allowed 55 yards rushing, so you want to see better out of that. But give them credit for where it's due. 2 red zone rushing touchdowns, converted 2 key 3rd and short situations on the ground, and they'll have to be better on the offensive line without a question. But when you look at the end of the day with this team in the Colorado Buffaloes, they had more first downs. They dominated time of possession. They were better on 3rd and 4th down. They won the turnover battle, and they had less penalties. All in a debut for Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, and not to mention the 86 new players that was granted to this team. And this team honestly just showed the ability to play in the face of adversity. When you look at them having multiple 4th quarter leads taken away from them, they made plays time and time and time and time again, and they forced TCU to make a better play. They said, show me what you can do. We're going to get number 2 out here in Shedeur Sanders. We're going to get Travis Hunter. We're going to get Dylan Edwards. We're going to make plays. These guys know how to ball. TCU, it's up to you. And of course, we're all getting worried there for a second if you're a Colorado fan, because whoever touched the ball last was probably going to win this game. Well, TCU's defense in that, Colorado's defense in that perspective stepped up to the occasion. They had a stop on 3rd and 14. Not on 3rd and 14. They had a stop on 4th and 9. The game-saving drive from the Colorado defense. So they bent, but they didn't break. They won the turnover battle in key moments and really making that game-saving stop on 4th down. You can't say that Colorado's defense didn't perform enough to win that football game, because at the end of the day, they did. And again, I get it was against number 17 TCU, who unloaded most of their team into the NFL, and there was really no defense again in this game on both sides of the ball. But Coach Prime made a major step with his upset win on the road in front of a record crowd with a record amount of new players. So let's get into kind of what Colorado was coming into this game. And overall, the real effect that Coach Prime has had on this team already. If you haven't been tapped into Deion Sanders going from Jackson State to Colorado, this video will kind of give you a synopsis of, or rather this segment of the podcast will kind of give you a synopsis of really what his work has done for him so far. So you look coming into this game, Colorado won one game all of last year. They hadn't had a 300-yard passer since 2019, maybe 2020. They were underdogs by 20.5 points on the road with a brand new team, again, in front of a record crowd of people. This is the biggest crowd TCU ever had, 53,294 people. That's how many fans were in that stadium for the debut of Colorado on the road. Colorado was a horrible team last year. They lost by an average of 29 points, by far the worst in the country. There was no team in the country worse than giving up points and losing by as many points as the Colorado Buffaloes were last year. It was the fourth worst among Power 5 programs in the past 3 decades. And they snapped a 27-game losing streak to AP top 20 teams with this win against TCU. 86 new players from all over. We're talking about from JUCO to high school to the SEC, 53 of them, which is the first in the FBS, 53 transfers here for Deion Sanders. 9 of them followed him from Jackson State. Of course, Shedeur Sanders, who is his son, Colorado's starting quarterback. You got Travis Hunter, very highly touted prospect, number 2 in the country. Again, that player playing the wide receiver and the cornerback, top recruit in the 2022 class. But this was the most incoming players to an FBS roster since the inception of the transfer portal in 2018, and only 10 players from last season actually remained with this team. So Deion had a lot of unfamiliarity. Deion had a lot of roster stripping to do. He had a lot of literally breaking it down to the damn studs to restructure a 1-11 football team that had their head coach fired halfway through his 3rd season last year. And again, led the country in losing by, in the amount of points that they lost by on average. And again, this team was horrible over the last 20 years. Deion Sanders, put this school on the map. You have a historic number of players that have transferred in and out. Season tickets are sold out. Merchandise sales have spiked for this team. Take a listen to this. With sales of Colorado gear in December, which is the month that Deion Sanders was hired, they were up 505% over the previous year. 5 times the amount of people were coming in to buy Colorado merchandise simply because of the hire of Deion Sanders. The grit. Deion is a winner wherever he goes. He has a very business NFL cutthroat-like mentality because he has performed at the highest level and just got handed over to a program who was not nearly performing at the highest level. They came out so hard for Coach Prime before this game even. April 22nd of this year, the day after a snowstorm in Colorado, nearly 50,000 people went to the home stadium to watch Coach Prime's first spring game. This was the first snap of Coach Prime's career with the Colorado Buffaloes. The crowd for a spring game was bigger than all but 2 of the team's regular season home games from last year. And this was the first time they even sold tickets to this game, literally since the 70s. In almost 50 years, they never gave a shit about the spring game. They had the 3rd largest home crowd on hand for Deion's first spring game, only 2 home games from last year. And I'd probably like to believe maybe that was an opener and maybe one soon after that. the fans only in those 2 games outmatched the spring game. So the Deion effect is on full display here. These guys were coming out early. These guys were coming out often. And when you look at the total situation, is a perfect storm for a one-of-a-kind coach in Deion, no question about that, an overhaul of the NCAA rules and a program desperate for respectability at the end of the day. Perfect storm with the coach. The NCAA rules have been switched around some to be in his favor so he can break down and rebuild a roster and a program that had not meant anything, again, for the last 2 decades. There's no doubt that Deion Sanders, a.k.a. Primetime, was a winner everywhere he went. NFL Defensive Player of the Year, back-to-back Super Bowl champion, one of the best athletes, let alone defensive backs and kick returners of all time, the only athlete to play in a Super Bowl and World Series ever. He's in the college football and the NFL Hall of Fame. He's a 2-time SWAC champion while coaching for Jackson State University last year. He was a 2-time SWAC Coach of the Year at Jackson State. He's got a 27-7 record as a head coach, and he was a 2-time unanimous All-American at FSU. Do I need to tell you any more of Deion Sanders' resume for you to understand how much of a winner he is? For you to understand the mentality that he's putting into these kids, how these kids actually get him, how he's literally on the Pat McAfee show in interviews talking about how he wants to get these kids to the league. These kids want to play for Deion Sanders. They followed Deion Sanders. Deion wants to shed the light on the part of the HBCU, or really the part of the HBCU that does not get any recognition. He wants to lift those kids up. He wants to get into a program like Colorado and let you know that he's coming, just like he said in the postgame presser. He's a winner. He's a winner. He's a damn winner. And he is displaying that right now with Colorado because he knows how this game works on a mental level at the highest level because he's performed at such. He knew it was going to be a huge overhaul that really had to be done fast and efficiently. And he's telling last year's players literally, go ahead and jump in the transfer portal. If you think you don't want to be here, whatever the case may be, I'm inviting you to go jump into it because there's going to be a lot of changes this coming year. He's got the cutthroat, unapologetic, business-like approach to really an awful program, again, for the last 2 decades. He's prepping these kids for the NFL, and that's really not hard to see. And he's really implementing that inner Bobby Bowden, Mickey Andrews from FSU days, the defensive coordinator at FSU for the better part of Bobby Bowden's tenure there. Now, some reports say that the roster overhaul was personal, felt like he was attacking the team, but others knew that it was needed. Again, this was a team that won 1 football game last year. They went 1-11. He's taking advantage of the modern NCAA rules, and no one should hate him for it because now he's allowed to build a program and a roster. He's literally bringing kids out of the HBCUs and the lowlights of the NCAA, not saying HBCUs are lowlights of NCAA, but we know the coverage for them is not nearly as respectable as the other conferences. The HBCUs are loaded with talent. Unfortunately, they don't get to the league, but prime example of Shannon Sharp, who did just make his debut today on First Take, him and Stephen A going back and forth about them being from HBCU. So you have to respect what Prime is doing for the game. These kids literally want to go out and play for him. And some differences about Coach Prime, people hear him say some of these things. He's like, what is culture? He says players don't have to like one another. They just have to play well together. They don't need unity. You just need good players. He doesn't believe in captains on the jerseys. This is what I like a lot. He doesn't believe in captains on the jerseys. He puts a D for dog or an L for leader. He's speaking right to these kids. You've heard, if you hear some of the younger generation I'm 25, some part of the younger generation, I say it as well. Oh, that guy's a dog. He's an absolute dog. He plays like a dog. He is a dog at his position. Absolute stud, an absolute star. But then you also have leaders. Not every dog is a leader, like Deion said, and not every leader is a dog. Not everybody's built to lead, built to coach, built to mentor. He said he doesn't believe in the C on the jersey for the captains. He thinks that's a little foolish, which I don't think it's foolish. But when you dig into the overall, just mindset of Prime and you hear him talk about these things, it really makes sense as to why he's got this kid's attention overall, and why Colorado was able to play as well as they did. And not to mention, they paid him $29.5 million, which was the most ever to a Colorado coach to sign him, and that was before bonuses. You got to respect Colorado's odds starting up for the national championship, too, for Shedeur to win Heisman, for Travis Hunter to possibly win the Heisman. Shedeur Sanders went from 100-1 odds to 28 to 1 odds to win the Heisman. Travis Hunter went from 80 to 1 odds to 22 to 1 odds. So essentially both of them got about 4 times better odds after this game in order to take home the Heisman. The national championship odds, if I'm not mistaken, for Colorado, when they opened the year, it was 300 to 1. Now they've gotten 3 times as better, and they fall into 100 to 1, if I'm not mistaken. And just more numbers on this. This was the most bet on game of the weekend by far. Only 6 games from last season had more bets than this game. There were more bets and more money placed on the Buffaloes to win the entire national championship than any other team over the weekend. Vegas is going a little crazy here, of course, but by the end of Saturday's game, more bets had been placed at FanDuel on Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter to win the Heisman Trophy than any other player in the country. So clearly this game moved mountains for people that were really looking at Colorado. It really made the numbers spike up. It made Vegas start to think, wow, Prime's overhaul of this roster, the way that these players just played, 4 receivers over 100 yards, looking at Dylan Edwards at the running back position, looking at Coach Prime's accomplishments as he steps into Colorado, it's absolutely undeniable. So let's take a look at some of their best games of the season before we take a look at the NFL season opener preview. So they play Nebraska next, and before beating TCU, they were actually almost a touchdown underdog to Nebraska when the odds came out. I think they do them just a couple weeks ahead. Now they are literally 2.5-point favorites, just under a field goal, stepping into that game. And the hype is really at an all-time high right now for Colorado, but I want to see how they perform in their home opener of the season, which clearly looks promising. Nebraska looked rough against Minnesota, especially offensively. So then you go on to number 15, Oregon, on September 23rd on the road. You turn right around and play Caleb Williams, probably the number 1 pick in the draft, and number 6, USC, right after on September 30th at home, which is very good for Coach Prime there. Clearly, that's an advantage to him, and that will probably be one of the most watched games of the year, Shedeur Sanders and Caleb Williams going tit for tat, and I think that game will be a great chance for Shedeur Sanders to really improve his draft stock. And again, another nationally televised game, just like it was against TCU. You know this one with USC is going to be front and center, so it's going to be a great one to watch. November 4th, they play number 16 Oregon State at home. They finished the season with number 14 Utah on the road. These games, especially the USC game, will be highly counted for with Colorado. Again, they're going to play number 15 Oregon. They're going to play number 6 USC. They're going to play number 16 Oregon State, number 14 Utah. Nebraska's up next. I think they can win that game possibly comfortably, just with how the offense looked of Colorado versus how the offense of Nebraska looked as well. But it's going to be interesting to see as the defense come in through the season, because the hype is at an all-time high now. How big can the hype bubble get for Colorado before they realistically do have it popped? Because at the end of the day, I see about a 9 to 11 win football team right now with the Colorado Buffaloes. And I love what Shedeur Sanders did. Shedeur Sanders looked great. Shiloh Sanders looked excellent. You had an interception from Travis Hunter. You had him on the receiving side of the ball. 4 receivers, over 100 yards. It was one of the best college football games that the world has witnessed in a long time. And the fact that Vegas jumped on it as hard as they did, we know odds and numbers move all the time with every game, with every play, with every season, right? But even Vegas realizes what's happening here. Coach Prime said on the Pat McAfee show, he referenced The Little Engine That Could. Very simple elementary book. He said it was favorite book next to the Bible. And of course, the engine said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And Deion says, I don't think that I can do things. I know I can do things. I'm not jumping on the Colorado National Championship hype train yet, but it definitely has things warranting towards it. And you can say, again, what you want to say about them playing TCU. This was a statement win for a piss-poor program over the last 20 years with a new coach, with a new quarterback, 86 new players. A college football roster only has 105 players. Over 80% of their roster was brand new. 10 people. Only 10 people from last season had familiarity with just Colorado in general, let alone Deion Sanders. What a overhaul. What a game. What a way that Coach Prime has actually come in and just taken this program, not to this height, because of course it's just one game, but gotten this program to be this effective this quick. Love what I'm seeing. Deion, keep doing great things. Shedeur Sanders, I've definitely got my eyes on you. I knew you were a baller, man, no doubt. But now that you're getting that chance on the national stage, now that you're getting that chance in a Power 5 conference, by the way, the Pac-12 over the weekend went undefeated, absolutely crazy. Now that you're getting the chance to showcase that, I'm happy for you, man. I'm happy for Colorado. I cannot wait to see what they do as the season goes on. But let's switch over to the NFL now. As we finally have NFL football back, I remember, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 episodes ago, saying we had 100 days until the NFL season. Kind of just got sad there for a second. I remember KJM saying that, missed that morning show so much. Man, ESPN with the layoff, she took one of my great morning shows from me. But we do have the Lions at the Chiefs to open the NFL season. Chiefs are favored by 6.5 points, over under of 54.5. And when you look at the X factors for this game, what's really going to have this game decided? What is going to be the deciding factor for this game to be won in the season opener of the 2023 NFL season? I take a look at that Lions new and improved defense. I love the draft. I love the players that they brought in. But how is that defense going to fare against Patrick Mahomes? Because you bring in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was arguably the best safety in the league last year. Jack Campbell as the rookie, who you can argue it was the best linebacker in the draft. Brian Branch, who is by far the best safety in the draft. That's not even a debate. And Cameron Sutton, the corner, that came over from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Great defensive culture. They send Jeff Okudah out of there to the Falcons. He was never really able to stay healthy. But those four major players coming in, that's going to be a big deciding factor, because we know Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed have one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL, if not the most high-powered offense, since they literally were the number one offense in the league last year. How are they going to fare? Because we know that this Lions defense has been horrible. They have not been good over the last, X amount of seasons, and really at least the last few seasons when they bring in Aiden Hutchinson, when I feel like they should have taken a Jalen Carter over a, Jack Campbell over a Jahmyr Gibbs early on at 12, or even a Jack Campbell later in the draft. A lot of better defensive players that could have been out there for them, but nonetheless, they do bring in those four guys specifically as part of the highlights. And next to Aiden Hutchinson, I'm going to be excited to see what all of these guys can do together. But will they be able to actually stop Patrick Mahomes? That's something that has yet to be desired. I feel like the biggest story here for Kansas City is how are they going to fare with Chris Jones's holdout looking more likely than not? How much is it really going to affect them? The possibility of him holding out, they're going to miss him a lot. They're going to miss Chris Jones so much in this game. It's on national television. It's the season opener. He's their best defensive player by far, and he's a top 5 defensive player in football. Rated a top 10 NFL player by his peers, 15.5 sacks last year, maybe the third best player on the team behind Mahomes and Travis Kelce. 39 pass rush wins last year against double teams that led the league. Now, fairly enough, I got to be full disclosure. The next closest one's an injured Aaron Donald, who had 25. So you got to ask yourself, who's after Chris Jones? Is it George Karlaftis, who, yes, did have 6 sacks last year? Is it Charles Omenihu? Is it other players that are on that defense that maybe have yet to make a name for themselves? Of course, Trent McDuffie is in the secondary. I do respect him as a player, but he's not there to effectively rush the passer. And we know pass rushers are up there for people next to quarterbacks that you must pay. There are 3 positions in football that you have to pay no matter what. Your quarterback, a pass rusher, and a corner. We know that wide receivers are getting up there as well. Running backs have never been the case. The tight end market is tight too. But those 3 positions that I named first, you always pay them. And Chris Jones falls into a pass rusher that needs to get his money. But you also look at defenses in this game. Which defense is going to step up in a more than likely shootout? Because we have 2 very elite offenses going up against here, going up against each other. And when you look at Mahomes, again, Kelsey and Reed versus Jared Goff having a very solid season last year in Detroit. Not Dan Campbell. You add Jahmyr Gibbs. Jameson Williams, unfortunately, is suspended for this game. He could be an X factor if he was playing. You've got him on Ross St. Brown. I hate that they get rid of TJ Hawkinson, right? Because you imagine the piece that could be there now for him. But of course, they bring in Sam Laporta, who was, a well-touted tight end in the draft as well. But on paper, if we're talking about what defense is really going to step up, on paper, it has to be the Detroit Lions. All day, every day, twice on Sunday. Because the talent that they added is undeniable. Again, CGJ, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Cameron Sutton. That's all. That's all secondary players right there. The reason I wanted it to be more pass rushers is because the Lions couldn't stop a nosebleed when in terms of running the ball last year. They were horrible at stopping the run. And so you don't want to see the same thing continue to happen when, again, you could have taken that chance for possible Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith to put next to Nathan Hutchinson. But hey, it is what it is. But again, some of the worst defenses over the last few seasons. So they have to prove it to me for this team on paper as a defense to actually step up in the season opener against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I can see a couple turnovers in this week 1 matchup. I really can. If the Lions defense clicks like it's supposed to, and possibly throw something at Mahomes that not maybe he's not seen before, but just to surprise him in week 1. And maybe he doesn't expect that Lions defense to really come out there and play at the type of level that they really can. Are they just going to be coached to that point? Because now the Lions defense on paper, I love what it shows me. I do. Aiden Hutchinson, along with all the other players that they added. I actually want to go pull up the depth chart because I feel like I'm disrespectfully not mentioning some defensive players here. Come on now. All right. Don't awkwardly wait to load on me while I'm live on the show. That's what I get for not being prepared, though, right? But let's go position by position, or rather unit by unit, break this down, at least for the ones that I pulled here, and see really what the final verdict of this game will be. So quarterback play, Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff? Well, I'm going to take Mahomes, of course, because he's the best quarterback in the league, reigning MVP, reigning Super Bowl MVP. But Jared Goff, I think, will compete and put up his fair share of yards. Now, Mahomes is 5-0 and 18 touchdowns, no interceptions in his season openers in his entire career. So he has the chance, of course, to go 6-0, keep that interception or that non-interception streak alive. Now, Jared Goff, again, last couple seasons in Detroit, especially last year, he had that, 10 more touchdowns in the than the year before. Proved that he could be that, pivotal person in the offense to really help it go to the next level. And we all expected Jared Goff to meld and really play shitty in Detroit. So the fact that he has performed that well for those 2 years, and especially last year, does say a lot. You look at the head coaches, Andy Reid or Dan Campbell. I almost said Jack Campbell looking here at his last name. Of course, it's Andy Reid, no doubt. He's at home. And under Andy Reid, Kansas City's record stands at 9-1 in such matchups, a.k.a. opening up the season. So Andy Reid does have a nice opening day streak in the NFL that he is looking to keep going because it's an 8-game win streak. Again, he's 9-1 in such matchups, and going back to 2015 has not lost a season opener. When you look at weapons for these two teams, Chiefs or Lions, it's kind of crazy because the Lions boast much more talent than Kansas City in the running back room, and especially on the defensive side of the football. But Kansas City, I believe, wins out in receiving because I do believe that Kadarius Toney can be impactful. I do believe that Travis Kelce can really kind of account for two players. If Jameson Williams was playing next to Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and whatever Sam Laporta will show us, I would probably be able to easily lean Lions for most of the most of the weapons. But it does come down to, again, they have much more talent in the running back room. I like what Jahmyr Gibbs brings to the table. I have respect for Pacheco, CEH, and Jerick McKinney. RIP to CEH's career. I don't believe he should be down there in the third spot on the depth chart, but clearly things change when you go from college football to the NFL. And I know Detroit won 8 of their last 10 games for the season last year. I know that they won 4 out of their last 5, but this is a new year. So, score prediction, schedule prediction, who is going to win this game? 35-31 Chiefs or 31-28 Chiefs. I believe this is going to be a shootout between two of the NFL's most elite offenses. And let's not forget the last time these two quarterbacks played each other, we witnessed maybe the best game of all time, 54-51 on Monday Night Football, third highest scoring game ever. It was an insane amount of passing yards between the two. And you thought Kansas City would have won that game. No, it was Jared Goff and the Rams in those lightning yellow, navy blue uniforms. It was a good game. I actually watched that game in the first apartment that I ever rented. It was a very good game. It was a very, very good game. But there you have it. Lions at Chiefs prediction. I really think it's going to come down to which defense is going to be able to step up the most because I believe this is going to be a shootout. On paper, the Lions have that capability. But at the end of the day, Kansas City does reign supreme in the quarterback and head coaching department. Lions will come to play on opening night, but I'm either going to go 35-31 Kansas City or 31. Matter of fact, let me pull it back. I'll go 31-28 Chiefs here to win the season opener. And sticking with the Kansas City Chiefs, Chris Jones says he's not afraid to hold out until week 8. And some of you might be wondering, damn, why half the season or why week 8? Well, he still wants to get credited for a full season of veteran eligibility, probably a move that, him and his agent had consulted on. But Chris Jones says he's ready to hold out until week 8. And we just came out of this segment of talking about Lions at Chiefs preview this coming up for Thursday Night Football. But you look at Chris Jones' situation this year, it's not necessarily like Nick Bosa's, but you need to pay, your best defensive player. And I believe the Niners will make it right. And I hope the Chiefs make it right as well. But we know that he's been holding out in hopes of landing a new contract. He's entering the final year of his deal. He's due $20 million in his final year. And he's looking for a new deal that's really going to pay him about $30 million annually. Now, apparently Kansas City has offered Chris Jones a 3-year, $74 million contract, which is roughly around $25 a year. But which $70 million of it would be guaranteed. So that is obviously good for Chris Jones to be able to bring home $70 million guaranteed. But he's really looking at something more like 3 years, about $84.5 million. And that put him right between the contract that Aaron Donald signed a few years back and then the other star defensive tackles that signed this offseason. That put him at about $28 a year. I think that would put him in about that TJ Watt and hell, even Aaron Donald range roughly. And it's always difficult, right, when a player holds out. And my brain has caught up to the fact that the NFL is a business. So a guy that got paid, let's just say $100 million in a total contract for 2020, if there's a guy that's playing around the level of him just a couple years later, he's going to ask for more than that player, even if he's not as good as them. And I'm taking nothing away from Chris Jones. Again, 15.5 sacks last year, 4-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowl over the last 5 seasons. So there's no complaints about Chris Jones's play, right? Again, he's the best defensive player for the team. He's a cornerstone of the team. If the Chiefs want to have any chance at beating, he needs to be on the team. No question about that. But you look at the fact that he's recorded the fourth most sacks in the league over the past 5 seasons, 56.5, 4-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. He's only 29 years old, and he had 39 pass rush wins against double teams, 14 more than anyone in the league. So he was clearly pulling his weight last year. Best defensive player for the team. If the Chiefs want to have any possible chance of going back-to-back and actually repeating in this league, which is very hard to do, you're going to need that top 10 NFL player. You're going to need that 15.5 sacks, or maybe he falls down to 12 or 13 sacks. You're going to need that third best player on the team because George Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu, whoever else you have that might be in that rotation, they will not be able to fill the void of a star pass rusher and defensive tackle in this league being absent from that roster. And they really have to bring him back if they want to repeat, like I said. And the reason for me repeating that is because pass rushers are not as disposable as wide receivers in this league. A la Tyreek Hill, who just left last year, and they still had the number 1 offense in the league. I believe that wide receivers are much more replaceable than pass rushers. Yes, you can have a possible Eagles offensive line where 4 people have 10+ sacks, not very often. First time in the NFL history that it's happened, but maybe some people try to go for that type of build. I feel like all of those guys, at least within the next year or two, with the way the NFL's going, they're probably going to want at least 15 to 20 million versus you go get a star pass rusher. It just depends on how you want to balance it, right? But the AFC is loaded with offensive teams, whether it's the Jets, whether it's the Bengals, whether it's the Bills, whether it's the Ravens. You're going to need Chris Jones to disrupt to disrupt the quarterback, because we know when the pass rush is effective, everything falls afterwards. It gives the DBs more time. It gives them more of a chance to jump in and break up a play. But y'all get in the comments, get in the chat. Let me know what you think about Chris Jones being prepared to hold out until week 8 of the 2023 NFL season. Not something that Kansas City needs at all. Again, he is a very highly touted, very well-respected defensive player in this league. And you just can't have this sort of rinse and repeat mentality, I believe, when it comes to a defensive player that pulls his weight the way that Chris Jones does. Was I supposed to hit a break yet? When am I hitting a break in this show? Okay, shortly after right here. Let's get into the top 15 NFL teams. Yes, this is the NFL with AJL's first official power rankings of the 2023 NFL season. Y'all are probably going to get in the comments and scold me. I don't plan to make this a long-winded segment here because I know talking about each individual team can take some time, but simply, who are my top 15 NFL teams going into the 2023 NFL season. Number one, Kansas City Chiefs. Very simple, very straightforward. Best quarterback, best head coach in the league, coming off of a Super Bowl MVP, number one offense. We know what Kansas City brings to the table. Number two, even though Joe Burrow is going to be missing possibly week one with a calf, which I'm not really buying. I think they're milking this story a little more just to possibly get people on edge. Um, I'm going to have the Kansas City Bengals. I'm going to have the Cincinnati Bengals here at number two because this is an offense in the league that can hang with the Kansas City Chiefs, that has seen the Kansas City Chiefs the last couple of years in the AFC title game, who might be due for a Super Bowl this year. We'll get into those complete predictions later of the postseason. I think y'all are going to freak out over these power rankings and might even lose your mind over my complete postseason predictions coming later on. But the Bengals at number two, this is a team that has been surging for a while now. And you really don't want them to lose that spot. You don't want them to fall out of those top teams in the league because of how really great it is for the league that a team like the Bengals has come around over the last couple of years. And I don't believe they're going to be losing their spot anytime soon. And number three, the Philadelphia Eagles. You could have argued that the Eagles could be at number two. I do think they're going to have a slight regression with a lot of change, with losing both coordinators, with, yes, they do have a lot of draft talent coming in, and I think they're going to be absolutely fine. But a slight regression down here to number three. Still believe in Jalen Hurts. Still love that offense. Still love that defense. Again, they have different coordinators. I'm believing more in Nick Sirianni. And I always knew Jalen Hurts was him. You guys heard me say it when I came back on the show, and y'all heavily supported it for me as well. Here's where it might get kind of crazy for y'all, but number four, I'm buying into it. I've been saying it. I was turning away from it, and I really am switching sides on it. Number four is the New York Jets. Yes, you heard me correctly. Take flight with Gang Green and Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Hard Knocks is really showing an insight to how happy Aaron Rodgers is, how in control Aaron Rodgers feels, how Randall Cobb is stepping up for him, how Aaron Rodgers is really working the toolage of his team, just cussing players out when things don't go right, looking in the film room, making adjustments. He's got control. He's got arguably the best defense that's ever been behind him. He's got a great roster around him that, yes, is young, but he will be able to mentor this team. Yes, he does. Robert Saleh, who isn't the most experienced head coach, but Aaron Rodgers coming over here to the New York Jets. As the time has went on, I just envision Rodgers more and more at the end of the year holding up that Super Bowl trophy. And I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to win it. But something deeply inside tells me that the New York Jets are going to be a team to be reckoned with this year, and largely because they will have an efficient passer of the football and a legend in Aaron Rodgers. Number five, the although they are well put together, always respected what they brought to the table. I love the offense. I love Josh Allen as a quarterback. He's low-key one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, built like a monster. I wanted them to make a move for Jonathan Taylor. I wanted them to possibly make a move for a Saquon Barkley. Get that superstar running back in your backfield. Get an extra weapon, of course, for Josh Allen, which they did bring in Dalton Kincaid. And, of course, they do have Stephon Diggs. And Josh Allen said it was never a scare or an issue that he thought Stephon Diggs was going to get out of town. Number six, the San Francisco 49ers. I know a lot of people might have put them higher on this list, but I want to see what Brock Purdy does for all 17 games. He did look good last year in winning those games before he had to come out of the NFC Championship and then come back in. One of the craziest title games that we've seen for sure, especially with the injury history of the quarterbacks. But I believe in Kyle Shanahan. I believe in this defense. I believe in all of the offensive pieces that are around Brock Purdy, and I even believe in the offensive line that he's standing behind taking snaps from. But what is he going to do when the season gets going thick? What is he going to do when he does have to win the game on his arm? Can you do that? I'm not going to say for a full 17, games, because you're not possibly going to have to win the game every week on your arm. But what is Brock Purdy going to be as this season unfolds? He's got it all around him. I think the season rides and dies on Brock Purdy here. Number 7, give me the Baltimore Ravens. I had to think about this before I put the Ravens back up this high. but I really believe Lamar is going to be healthy this year. He's got the O-line to possibly keep him stable. The rec room could be a little more healthy, but I said this was another team that could trade for Jonathan Taylor. They've still got one of the best defensive cultures, one of the top elite defenses in the league, one of the best head coaches in the league. He's got OBJ. He's got Zay Flowers, who is one of my favorite prospects and wide receivers coming out of the draft. Mark Andrews is still a top 3 tight end in the league. Everybody's thankfully and hopefully coming back healthy for the season. We know it's impossible to stay healthy for really all 20 or 21 games, depending on if you get the first round bye of the NFL season. But the Ravens have everything in place. I believe they're going to return to that team we've seen a few years ago, and Baltimore is going to be fun to watch. At number 8, give me the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson are finally stepping into the top 10 rankings consistently for a lot of people around the world. You look at them winning the playoff game last year. I don't care if the Chargers chargered. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in the first half. And the former number 1 overall pick possibly looked like Mr. Irrelevant for a little bit of that playoff game. Then he turns it around, gets a great head coach in Doug Peterson, who a lot of you a lot of you seem to forget the respect he's earned and deserved because of how he won that Super Bowl with Nick Foles, because of how he was able to work that toolage of Carson Wentz and win that Super Bowl against Tom Brady in Philadelphia, putting up the most points on a Bill Belichick defense, especially in the Super Bowl in that year. Bringing it back to the Jaguars here. I believe a lot in Doug Peterson. Calvin Ridley is here. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne in the backfield. Always been a believer in Christian Kirk. I like some of the pieces that they have there on defense, and the Jaguars are here to compete in a loaded AFC. At number 9, and maybe you could have swapped the two of these, but now I'm really looking at quarterback and coaching duos as we head down. This defense is going to matter, no doubt, and I wanted to do a top 15 because damn isn't the NFL competitive this year. At number 9, the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, like I've been saying all year, are really going to bring the magic out of each other. Sean's never had a quarterback like this. Russ has never had a coach like this, at least in my opinion, offensively. Being that offensively minded, Denver's got one of the best elite defenses in the league. Sean Payton stepping in to really take over the reins. Russell Wilson is not washed. You're crazy as hell if you think one season from him, under a horrible coaching job is actually going to want to make sure my stream's good. Yep, we're good. That a horrible coaching job is actually going to denote him and knock him down from being a top quarterback. I comfortably have the Broncos here at 9. At number 10, this is where it gets a little dicey. The top there or the bottom 6 teams here in this top 15 power rankings. Number 10, give me the Los Angeles Chargers. If that defense on paper is anything like it should be, that will easily hold this spot. We know what the offense is capable of. Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler have to stay healthy. I love that they bring in Quentin Johnston, kind of a similar guy to Mike Williams, but we knew Keenan Allen's getting older, not necessarily staying as healthy. They needed some help in that room. We clearly know what Justin Herbert is. The Chargers would be higher if Brandon Staley wasn't coaching this team. And I believe Brandon Staley has everything really within him to coach this team to a higher level, to get them to a Super Bowl, to get Justin Herbert to an MVP competitive level, which he usually plays at, of course. But the Chargers are too stacked on paper. I know they just blew the major playoff lead, but they're way too stacked on paper for me to not put them in here in the top 10. At number 11, give me the Dallas Cowboys. And again, the Cowboys would be higher as well if I felt like their quarterback and head coach situation was really more solid and respectable. There's no doubt that their offense is elite. There's, again, even no doubt that their defense is elite as well. You look at a lot of these teams that are up here, really outside the Bengals and Chiefs and really the Bills. You got some great defenses all the way around. Maybe not so much with the Jaguars as well, but Broncos, Chargers, Cowboys, you've got defense here. And with as balanced as the Cowboys can be, with them, always having that capability of having the best offense in the league. Now I believe Kellen Moore is gone, if I'm not mistaken. Did Kellen Moore, did he go to? Yep, he did go to the Chargers. Man, that's going to be a lot of fun for. I think I just saw Kellen Moore's player image. That was funny as hell. Wow, dude looked like Drake May just from a glance. But yeah, the Cowboys at being number 11, I don't think you can refute that. They're a very balanced team. Again, I like what they bring to the table offensively. And if Dak and McCarthy were more trustable and better, I think this is a consensus top 5-6 team in the league. Just when you ask people, hey, on paper, the Cowboys are capable of so much. And you'd like to believe that they have that capability to go to the Super Bowl, but the Cowboys will more than likely Cowboy. And number 12, my New Orleans Saints. I did want to put the Saints higher here. But I'm just going to keep it real with myself. I even wanted to possibly put them 10 or 11 spot, but I think Dennis Allen as a head coach does hold them back some. That's more of a minus than a plus, in my opinion, especially as a diehard fan. Now, don't get me wrong. Dennis Allen can absolutely step up to the plate this year with, a little bit of a revamped team and having 1 year under his belt, getting that veteran back in the building, kind of having some, familiarity with Derek Carr. But we're going to need to see what the offense is going to be. We do have Alvin Kamara out for the first 3 games of the year. We did just revamp the roster, and overall, we have to see what the defense is going to be like early on. Saints have a ton of potential in a weak NFC, no doubt about it. Notice how they are one of 3 one of 4 NFC teams in my top 12 so far, as the AFC clearly does dominate here. I wanted to put my Saints higher. I really would, but I'm not going to say they're better as of right now in my head with the football knowledge that I have than the Cowboys, Chargers, Broncos, Jaguars, Ravens, Niners, Bills, Jets, Eagles, Bengals, Chiefs. I'd love to put them higher, but I'm sticking them here at 12. Number 13, the Cleveland Browns. I'd love to have them higher as well, but we have a question mark on Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson. I still believe Deshaun Watson is that dude, no doubt about it. I understand his off-field things kept him off the field for a while, and he missed a whole season, but Deshaun Watson can easily still be him. He can still be that Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen prototype. If Deshaun Watson's in the MVP conversation this year, I'm not shocked. I've got my close eye on the Cleveland Browns this year because I know what they've got on that roster. But Kevin Stefanski, after the first year coming in, revamping everything, playoffs, obviously misses playoffs and then wins even less games than the second year and misses playoffs again. So he could possibly be on the hot seat. Don't doubt the offensive talent that they have in Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper. And of course, the defense, the front 7 that they bring to the table has always been stout, especially over the last couple seasons. At number 14, give me the Minnesota Vikings. This is a team that, of course, can float anywhere from 8 all the way down to 13 to 15, depending on how they want to play. We know Kirk Cousins is, for the most part, Mr. Consistent. Pretty textbook when it comes to what he's supposed to do as a quarterback, but he can win the game on your arm. He can make big throws. And for the most part, Kirk Cousins is a very respectable, top 8 to 12 quarterback, depending on who you ask, in the NFL. Now, the defense is a big thing that holds me back. Excuse me, who's their HC? Because I feel like I'm about to butcher that. Is it still Kevin O'Connell? Okay, yeah, it is Kevin O'Connell. Now, they do bring in Brian Flores, which I like a lot, which I like a whole lot. I love Brian Flores coming in. I said it was a legendary hire, no doubt, for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think they're going to see that, be displayed. But even if Brian Flores gets that defense back to where it needs to be, I believe the offense can hang with all of the teams that are above: Browns, Saints, Cowboys, Chargers, Eagles, Chiefs, Bengals that I have up there. There's no doubt that the Vikings can, but how is their defense going to fare for them in a league that is so offensively driven now? And at number 15, I had 6 teams to pick between: the Lions, the Steelers, the Dolphins, the Giants, the Falcons, the Seahawks. Maybe you don't agree. I'm just liking what I'm seeing from these rosters, from these squads so far. But when I look at head coaching, this quarterback can definitely step up to potential because they did last season. Maybe not against great competition, but the wide receivers at his disposal were crazy. At number 15, I'm going to go the Miami Dolphins. I've always been a Tua lover. I've always been a Tua believer. I'm a lefty just like Tua. I played football back in 3rd grade, but I never played quarterback. But I throw a football left-handed in real life. So I totally resonate with Tua having to think with a different side of his brain. The world is not built for you. It's kind of built backwards from our perspective. And he's battled a lot. He's battled concussions. He's battled, some injuries over the last year that really worried us about him. But he does have a Tyreek Hill. He does have a Jalen Waddle. He does have a Mike McDaniel, who I think brought greatness out of him. And Mike McDaniel has done a great job with that Dolphins team so far. Again, the defense can be something as a highlight of this team because they do pick up Jalen Ramsey. Now, he is going to miss, I think, until about December, so they might not feel his presence until it comes down to crunch time for playoffs. But the firepower of the Dolphins was way too much. I mean, I think the firepower of the Dolphins, even possibly with their quarterback situation, I mean, yeah, you might want to see the Lions or maybe the Seahawks in there, but I'm on the Dolphins. Not even hype train. I've just liked them as a team, and especially since Tua has started to get, some recognition and getting his reps up in the league. I always liked him at Alabama. I didn't really care that he took Jalen's job. I still think Jalen is a better quarterback, but I will have the Miami Dolphins here as my number 15 team. So the NFL with AJL top 15 NFL teams, my very first power rankings going into 2023. 15 Dolphins, 14 Vikings, 13 Browns, 12 Saints, 11 Cowboys, 10 Chargers, 9 Broncos, 8 Jaguars, 7 Ravens, 6 Niners, 5 Bills, 4 Jets, 3 Eagles, 2 Bengals, 1 Chiefs. You guys get in the chat, get in the comments, let me know what you think about these power rankings as I put them out for the first time for the 2023 NFL season. And let's go ahead and head into a break for the show. As this has been episode 37 of the NFL with AJL, I appreciate each and every one of you for tapping into tonight's show. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you tapped in here with me on a Labor Day weekday, the day of Labor Day podcast. I always appreciate you guys. Please make sure to like the stream, share it wherever you're at, subscribe on YouTube as you guys have been doing absolutely great. Again, best video that I've posted so far with the Isaiah Simmons trade, 5,200 views and counting. Y'all are running up the analytics. Y'all are running up the subscribers, going viral on the NFL with AJL account. Buy and Sell with AJL account is having a great video pop around on it as well. So I appreciate the love that you guys always show, because if it wasn't for your support, I would not be able to do this at a high level. And ultimately, you guys are the community and the audience that have really flocked to me. And I love you guys so much for allowing me to do what I truly love from the bottom of my heart. And of course, I always want to give kudos, shout out to the NFL, the NFL with AJL sponsor of Buy and Sell with AJL. Buy and Sell with AJL is the worldwide professional real estate need sponsor of the show. Jumbling my words a little bit, but we'll always do our best to save it. If you need to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate, contact them at Buy and Sell with AJL on all social media platforms. Drop your email in the comments or at them at a DM on social media to get on their exclusive newsletter. And also make sure that if you want to take advantage of their AI in the system as well, again, get in the comments, slide them a DM on social media, drop them your email and possibly an address of a property that maybe you're curious about. Maybe it's your home. Maybe it's the house that has been on the corner of the road for the last 22 years. And you just want to know what might be going on with the price if someone were to look to sell it, or even if you're looking to sell your own home. It's got all the things a seller possibly needs for you to succeed in listing your home and getting the most money for it. Heading right back into the show again, episode 37 of the NFL with AJL. Football is back. Football is here. We are packed and loaded on a super duper tight show. Episode 37, rolling right along as Mike Evans wants a new Bucs contract by week 1. And this is a little interesting because when you look at Mike Evans, where he's at right now in his NFL career, where you know that he's been a top wide receiver 1, you know that he's one of the most respected wide receivers in the game. You know he is the model of consistency in the NFL. You wonder why guys coming out and just maybe kind of randomly wanting a new contract by week 1, but apparently this has been going on for a little while. So his agent said that when Mike Evans became a Buc, he promised a Super Bowl and to be a Buccaneer for life. He's clearly fulfilled one of the two, as Tom Brady came over in the COVID season, won the Super Bowl with them, thus making Mike Evans a champion. And Mike wants to deliver on his promise of being a Buc for life. The agent says that, he will play elsewhere in 2024 if no deal is reached, because Mike Evans wants the next phase of his career to be with an organization who wants him and wants to help him win a Super Bowl. Mike Evans' numbers speak for himself. 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons with the Bucs, the first player in NFL history to ever do that to start their career. He's third in NFL history for most 1,000-yard seasons behind Jerry Rice, 14. Very possible that he can catch him. And Randy Moss with 10. If he does another 1,000 or has another 1,000-yard season this year, he'll tie Randy Moss, and we know that that'll be all over the record books for him. Now, Mike Evans also owns, of course, as we know, just about every Buccaneers franchise receiving record. Most career touchdowns is 81, most career receptions 683, and most career receiving yards with 10,425. But Mike Evans' agent, Derek Gilmore, by the way, said the Bucs don't want to pay 2 receivers over $20 million a year. We obviously know about Chris Godwin, who's a Pro Bowl wide receiver for the Buccaneers. He's entering his second season of a 3-year, $60 million deal with $40 million guaranteed. So in my opinion, for them to not pay Mike Evans and obviously choose to pay Chris Godwin, we know, I'm pretty sure anyways, that Godwin is the younger receiver. Edmonds has been there longer. And I just personally believe that, Mike Evans has done more for the team, especially over an extended amount of time than Chris Godwin has. But you ask yourself, is this move justified from Mike Evans, just kind of coming out and saying he wants this new contract before week one? Because he's also on record per ESPN report saying, I don't want to cause a tiff with my team. I don't want to be there. I don't want to not be there and make things difficult. I want to be there to support Baker, to support the team, and ultimately have my, squad in a position to win. But he's entering the final season of a 5-year, $82.5 million extension that he signed back in March of 2018. And we surely know since that point that the market for wide receivers, let alone the paydays in the NFL, have went up significantly when you take a look at the numbers. And apparently they've been working on this deal for over a year. But considering that he does want to be a Buccaneer for life, I think really that's the only reason that this move is being pushed, because this offense is really bare outside of the couple of receivers that they do have. And I have respect for the offensive line. I understand that they're trying to find their way with the running back and tight end room, but I don't trust any combo of Baker Mayfield and only the second quarterback they have on the roster and Kyle Trask to take this team far, let alone Todd Bowles being a defensive-minded head coach. And again, I do have them per my NFL predictions. We're going to get into the complete entirety of those right after this segment. I do have them going 6-11, so they will pick high next year. But you look at the new contracts that, Tampa has coming up as well. You've got Levante David, Devin White, Antoine Winfield Jr. at the safety position, who was a rookie not long ago, and left tackle Tristan Wirfs, who has performed at a very high level, arguably one of the best linemen already in the league. They're all due for contracts in 2024, and those are all very key players of a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team as well. And we even saw Devin White in the offseason. He kind of made some waves, publicly requested a trade, but ultimately he will play out his 5th-year option in 2023. And the unfortunate thing about them paying Mike Evans is they're actually still paying Tom Brady. Tom Brady's contract is still active here for the Bucs anyways. He counts $35 million against the salary cap this year. There's $76.76 million in dead money in 2023, is the most of any team in the NFL. So that's literally money they have to pay that they can't do anything about. Now, they are projected to have $46.91 million in cap space next season. Million in salary cap space next season. So that will be solid for them to be able to go out and make a move and possibly be kind of a middle tiered, team able to make moves in free agency. But is it really a thing of the Bucs need to hurry to get this done, or how badly do the Buccaneers need to get this done? And I think if they want to make a move in the draft next year, since I think they're going to be picking high, having a 6-11 record, and take a highly touted quarterback, whether they try to make a steal for a Shedeur Sanders, or they get in the mix for Caleb Williams or Drake May or Quinn Ewers. Yeah, I think it's Quinn Ewers, out of Texas, whatever the case might be with these quarterbacks. And yeah, bring Mike Evans back in, just take your loss this year, draft some weapons or trade for some weapons in the near future if maybe you're feeling it at the trade deadline, whatever the case might be. And keep this mostly Super Bowl squad together. Again, outside of Baker Mayfield, the defense is still absolutely loaded. And I think the offense realistically just needs a couple of pieces, and might even be a quarterback and just 1 to 2 offensive pieces away, mainly tight end or running back, of course, quarterback as well, from being NFC contenders. But they could easily use him at the trade deadline to get capital or whatever the case may be with an NFL team coming in that needs a wide receiver one, because I feel like Tampa's kind of on this fine line, right? Like, they brought Brady in, and just with adding the quarterback, let alone the best quarterback in NFL history, they won a Super Bowl, even if it was in the pandemic season. But after Brady leaves, yes, you bring in Baker Mayfield. Of course, you lose Leonard Fournette, and you don't have Rob Gronkowski. I actually forget that Fournette and Gronkowski did come in and play well that season and provide a lot for them. I don't feel like they're still far off from a Super Bowl. Yes, head coach, of course, in Todd Bowles. But roster-wise, defense is still loaded, and I know I'm probably asking for a lot with, just another quarterback to get you there and a tight end or a running back. But I'm calling a spade a spade. The facts are the facts in the NFL, and if the Bucs could make that type of move, they could possibly get back to that Super Bowl contending level. But, at the end of the day, I wanted to do Mike Evans landing spots, but we can save that for another day. I wouldn't be shocked if you see Mike Evans realistically as a big-time trade commodity at the deadline for a team in need of a wide receiver one. Pay Mike Evans, respectfully what he's asking for. He's not a major harborer of money in the NFL, but he is a wide receiver one at the end of the day, a guy that does have 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons, whether it was just a little over 1,000 yards or 12, 13, 1,400 yards in a season for his career. Mike Evans is one of the best deep ball catchers in the league, one of the best deep threats in the league, one of the best high pointers in the league, very long, lanky, physical, and overall a guy that has a lot of respect. And I think if Tampa does want to keep that offense in any sorts that they have a game plan for, you re-sign him. If you're not feeling it, if maybe you're about to tank because you're just going for a total reset, you won the Super Bowl, why not? Let's bring in young talent, which they do have a good bit of. Then maybe they try to tank. Who really knows? I'm not sure. But I did think that Mike Evans wanting a new contract before week 1 was something that definitely held weight, because he's arguably their best player right now, at least on the offensive side of the football. Getting into the last segment here of the NFL with AJL, episode 37, as I've got the complete 2023-2024 NFL playoff predictions. This will be posted as 2 segments on YouTube. You'll get the entirety of it here. I'll timestamp it so you can go and find it, where the AFC, where the NFC is, and maybe I'll even do the divisional rounds and all that for you guys. This isn't going to be crazy long-winded, kind of just a quick hitter here because I've went through all the teams. I did all the predictions. I looked at all the records. I took the home, away, bye weeks into consideration, projected wins, toughest schedule, and put that to the test. So the AFC playoff bracket, at the 1 seed, I have the Los Angeles Chargers, who will win the AFC West with a 13-4 record because they'll have its 4-2 division record, while Cleveland will have a 3-3 division record. I do have the number 2 seed being the Cleveland Browns winning the AFC North, also coming in with a 13-4 record. But again, the Chargers will have a better division record, while Cleveland will be just under at 3-3. The number 3 seed will have the Jags winning the AFC South easily with a 12-5 record, no doubt about that. Number 4 seed, the New York Jets, win the AFC East with an 11-6 record. Now, they're also tied with the Bills at 11-6 record as well. But y'all heard me earlier. The Jets are my number 4 team going into the league. I've got the A-Rod hype train solely on my shoulders, and I'm listening to everything that it could possibly bring forward. The Jets making the playoffs over the Bills is exactly what the NFL needs right now, and they'll have a better conference record, too, to justify this with Buffalo, as it will come down to possibly division games, what are your conference games, etc. At the number 5 seed, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who also have a 12-5 record, but they're going to be clinching 5th place due to having a better conference record over the Denver Broncos. And of course, the Chargers won the division at 1, so they came right back behind them at 12-5. Chargers with a 13-4 record. Based off that schedule and everything that's going on, they can easily attain that when you take a look at what's happening. Number 6 seed, I've got the Denver Broncos with a 12-5 record, clinching 6th place. And the 7th seed, I've also got the Baltimore Ravens at 12-5, clinching 7th place. But due to having 3 division wins, well, the Broncos and Chiefs have 4 each. So that is what falls them to drops them to the 7th overall seed with the 12-5 record. You heard me correctly. I have the Bills, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Dolphins all missing the playoffs. And that's not hot takes. That's based off looking at the schedules, looking at who's home and away. What are the, again, when are these games being played? Where is the bye week? How tough is your schedule realistically? I don't want the Bills or the Bengals or the Dolphins to miss the playoffs, but we know there's going to be heartbreak this year. There's going to be plenty of segments of which teams will and won't make the playoffs, especially in the NFC. And as of right now, I'll have those 4 missing out. Going on into wild card weekend for the AFC, you got the number 2 Browns versus the number 7 Baltimore Ravens. I got the Browns in a close one here. They're going to be at home as the number 2 seed. I do like Deshaun Watson as a better passer than Lamar Jackson. I do believe the defenses are comparable. The Browns will win in the run game slightly, but the Ravens do have the better head coach. I just overall like the Browns being at home in this one. I like Deshaun a little bit better than Lamar as a quarterback. Again, you might think I'm wild for that, but Deshaun showed me a couple years back, and I know you're probably saying, oh, a couple years back. Deshaun showed me what he's capable of, and just because he didn't play but 6 games last year doesn't mean he's not going to be able to return to at least 80 to 85% of that form, which I do believe would be better than Lamar Jackson. And I know Lamar has the MVP, but maybe this is a bigger upset of the weekend as I have the Browns beating the Ravens in a close one at home on Wild Card weekend. I've got the Jags versus the Broncos. The Jags at the 3 seed, Broncos at the 6 seed. The Broncos will win this one in a close, big-time coaching battle with Sean Payton and Doug Peterson. I am going to take Denver, though, due to the veteran playoff experience with Russell Wilson and with Sean Payton. And these rosters are comparable, but I like Denver's defense and honestly coaching just a little bit better. Broncos will be on the road. Jags will be at home. Again, Broncos in a close, big-time coaching battle with Sean Payton and Doug Peterson. Sean Payton will definitely put on display with Russell Wilson in that offense and really a balanced team in the defense as well to show people what the case is. The best game, arguably, of the weekend with the wild card round, at least in the AFC, we've got the number 4 Jets at the number 5 Kansas City Chiefs, or really the number 4 Jets hosting the number 5 Kansas City Chiefs. Got a rematch of week 4. We got Mahomes and company playing their first ever road playoff game against the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs in a shootout of arguably the first and second best offenses in the NFL by the time this game arrives. 2 MVP candidates, I'm sure, is what we're going to be witnessing here. But Robert Saleh's playoff inexperience and overall just the youngness of a Jets team, I think, is going to show here, especially being a defensive-minded head coach. Chiefs move on. AFC divisional round, number 1 Chargers versus number 5 Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid playing their second straight and only second ever road playoff game against Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers, who are fresh off their first-round bye. Rest versus rust scenario kind of comes in here because you got back-to-back shootouts for the Chiefs, as it'll be another one here with the Los Angeles Chargers. You got Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert are going to put on an absolute show. But again, I will take that coaching experience of Andy Reid and the better quarterback play of Mahomes, maybe not by much in terms of quarterback play, but what is Brandon Staley actually going to do? What are the Chargers going to do with a first-round bye? Are they going to charger it up? Are they going to melt? Maybe not melt, but it does feel like they will have this upset here as they come out of the first-round bye. Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City will be in their 6th straight AFC title game in as many seasons as Mahomes has been the starter, which will break the tie, ironically enough, with Ken Stabler's record of 5 straight title games, and Mahomes will take the lead there. Another great game in the divisional round. Chiefs move on to the AFC title game. Another great game in the divisional round. Number 2 Browns versus number 6 Denver Broncos. Browns are clearly going to be at home here. Sean Payton is taking the Broncos to the AFC title game in his first year, all while rebuilding and rebounding Russell Wilson and letting him cook again. Now, Watson could possibly be the better quarterback and play better over Russell Wilson in this game, and chances are that he might. But I like Sean Payton's coaching over Kevin Stefanski's. I like that it's really going to be a balanced battle all the way around between these two teams, 2 elite balanced rosters who match up great with each other. And I really think either turnovers or mistakes will decide this game here. So we've got our AFC Championship game. 6-seeded Broncos at the 5-seeded Chiefs. And the Chiefs will be hosting their 6th straight AFC title game after winning 2 road playoff games and getting to this point. Sean Payton and Russell Wilson will be playing on the road the entire postseason, but they'll still get to that AFC title game. And unfortunately, that road will end here for maybe not my beloved Sean Payton and his Denver Broncos. Not my beloved Broncos. I just still got some feels for Sean Payton, man. It's going to be hard watching him out there. I will say that man did not look right in Broncos orange, though. Not at all. So now we have the AFC title game. Like I mentioned, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are playing on the road in the entire postseason, and that road will end here. There won't be many times that I take a quarterback, coach, offensive combo over Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, clearly Travis Kelce as well. Whatever else they've managed to maybe make a move or a trade deadline move for by this point could be possibly scary. 2 high-flying offenses with the Broncos' elite defense will make this an absolute must-watch. I'm going to love the possible shootout here. The Broncos defense could be that X factor. Still going to take the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes to go to the Super Bowl for the 4th time in 5 years. But damn it if the Broncos don't make us think they can do it. Broncos, Jets, Browns, Bengals, Bills, so many teams here in the AFC that will want to be here representing their team for the Super Bowl, but it will be the Kansas City Chiefs. On to the NFC side, and then at the very end, we'll have our Super Bowl prediction, and we'll get out of here for episode 37. At the number one seed, I have At the number one seed, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. They will win the division, NFC East 13-4 record. Saints at the 2 seed, they will win the NFC South with the 11-6 record. Niners at the 3 seed, they will win the NFC West with a 10-7 record. And the Bears will win the NFC North with an 8-9 record. The Cowboys fall in at 5 with a 10-7 record. The Seahawks come in at 6th with the 9-8 record. And the Atlanta Falcons fall in with an 8-9 record. They beat out the Giants due to the Falcons having a weaker division, having a better chance realistically to win more division games, and they do have the easiest schedule in the NFL, or at least tied for it, with the New Orleans Saints. And the NFC East will be sneaky competitive. And I think the Giants have a chance to make it here since they will split their division games also, but they're tied for the 4th toughest schedule in the league. Ironically, we're the division rivals in the Dallas Cowboys. So wildcard weekend is going to bring us a matchup that we've only seen one time. It arguably sparked the Saints-Falcons rivalry. December 28th, 1991, the Falcons beat the Saints in the wild card round to advance. They win 27-20. Now we will have the number 2 New Orleans Saints against the number 7 seeded Atlanta Falcons in New Orleans, and the Saints will win in the best game of the damn weekend. The history of these teams is dead even. Outside of championships, Falcons fans, you better not try me. Just about even, though. Series is tied at 54 wins apiece. The Falcons have one more division title than the Saints. 6 Falcons, Saints 5. The Falcons do have more NFC title game appearances than the Saints, but hey, all we needed was one, baby. All we needed was one. Y'all keep coming at me on Facebook in the comments, and whatever the case may be, the Falcons fans coming for me as a Saints fan. You know I'm here for it. I just bought my tickets, by the way. Saints Falcons, November 26, 2023 in Atlanta. I'm talking my shit. I'm there with my team. I'm there with my folks. And I will damn sure be on the mic afterwards telling you guys how that game went down. I won't be at the wild card weekend game, though, that I'm predicting. But this is going to be a great matchup. You got a battle of very competitive teams. Should be elite defenses, really, this coming season. When you look at both of the rosters, Saints have always found a way to get it together towards the end of the year. The last few years, maybe they stick it out the whole year. And the Falcons, I think, will easily have a top 10 defense. You guys saw me talk about it on YouTube channel. That this isn't the best head coaching in the league. There are going to be plenty of offensive weapons for both sides of the ball. But I think the Saints win the turnover battle, outcoach Atlanta, and ultimately move on to the divisional round. The 3rd-seeded Niners versus the 6th-seeded Seahawks. Niners are at home. I got the Niners in another great game. I want to say this is a rematch of last year. I think we're going to have a head coaching masterpiece in this one with Kyle Shanahan, Pete Carroll. Now, the Niners defense should really help them secure this one, no doubt. And both offenses can even, seem evenly matched at this point. But I'm really going to take a slight advantage. Maybe each of them have a slight advantage over each other offensively because, again, Seattle's loaded offensively. So is the Niners. But I think the Niners defense really will be that X factor. I've got them winning in another great game because of defense and head coaching over Pete Carroll. And now to the final wild card weekend game for the NFC, the 4th-seeded Bears against the 5th-seeded Dallas Cowboys. And here's where I have the upset of the weekend with the Chicago Bears coming in and winning this game at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Justin Fields gets his first playoff win. The believers finally start to come around. Cowboys are going to crumble with the pressure of being on national television, being on the road. Dak Prescott's probably going to have another stat padding season. The memes will roll. Dak Prescott, there's a chance he could play great. There's a chance he could struggle. But if he struggles, you know for a fact that we're going to hear it. And I do think the Cowboys defense will be great, but Justin Fields will find a way somehow to manipulate it with the hell of an athlete that he is, being in his first playoff game, being able to host it at home, knowing that he won the division, getting into the playoffs. This is going to be a year for Justin Fields that we, or at least me, are going to love to see. I feel like it's kind of like the Jalen Hurts treatment, and I talked about it. Josh Allen took that leap. Jalen Hurts took that leap. Justin Fields has had 2 coaches in 2 years. He just got a weapon. Wait for the jump from Justin Fields, and it's going to come to win the division and to win his first playoff game at home in Wild Card Weekend. I could even see a possible shootout here. I really could. Justin Fields putting up points, Dak Prescott putting up points. I kind of worry about Matt Eberflus, but the NFC North is one of the weaker divisions in my opinion. Again, I do have them winning it at 8-9. Now let's get on into the divisional round for the NFC. 1-seeded Eagles versus the 4th-seeded Bears. I'm not even going to get deep into this one. I'm going to take the Eagles by far, fresh off the first round bye. Now, I do think the Eagles crazily outmatch the Bears here in a lot of departments, if not really all of them. Now, Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts, I think, will have a duel to remember, no doubt, but the quarterback and the coaching experience win this one. Could be a possible blowout, could be a possible shootout. I'd love to see a shootout between Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts, two quarterbacks that just talk about the game of we had to earn our respect, and now we're finally facing off against each other. I'd be glued to the screen for that. No doubt I'm going to have the Eagles by far winning this game. And unfortunately, we have the 2-seeded Saints hosting the 3-seeded Niners. And as much as I want to take New Orleans in this game, and don't get me wrong, if Dennis Allen steps up to the occasion, which I believe he can, if Derek Carr plays to the level that I believe he can, which he's shown that he can, well, he hasn't shown yet with a good defense that he can, but that's going to kind of be the mantra is don't go crazy and turn the ball over. I love the defense that we have, but I don't think it's going to be better than the Niners. And unfortunately, I have to take the Niners here because of really all the aspects and how they match up against New Orleans. They match the Saints. I think just enough to win this one on the road, but it will not be easy in New Orleans against that defense. And yes, while Derek Carr is, enough over Brock Purdy really to at least win that quarterback battle, I don't think it's enough to outweigh the Niners coaching, the defense outmatching the Saints, maybe not by much, but definitely by far on the coaching of Kyle Shanahan. Unless, again, Dennis Allen comes around. If Dennis Allen improves drastically as a coach, then the Saints can still this one at home because their defense does compare to San Francisco. And if their offense is rolling to anywhere where it should or could be, they could definitely be in the NFC title game. But to keep it realistic, the NFC title game will now come down to the Eagles and the 49ers, an exact rematch of last year. And the Eagles win the rubber match. Very evenly matched teams facing off, but I'll take Jalen Hurts and company at home. Although San Francisco, again, they could steal this one with the defensive play, with their defensive play and a possible turnover here. Going to be an awesome head coaching battle. And there's a very good chance that Shanahan could outcoach Sirianni, but I'm going to love Jalen Hurts over Brock Purdy or really whatever the quarterback situation could be at that point. I pray it's not Sam Darnold, because if it is, then we know the Eagles can definitely roll over the Niners in that game. But ultimately, the Eagles and the Niners will be a good game. It might even be a great game. But the Eagles will have what it takes to get through this. And it might be a powerhouse win against a number one defense in the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers. We don't really know to this point. Obviously, that's why we're doing predictions, but I've got the Eagles winning this. I love Jalen Hurts. I'm still on the hype train. I know they lost coordinators and had to revamp, but they're here. Which leads us to a Super Bowl rematch from last year, Super Bowl 57. We're walking into Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. The Chiefs and the Eagles will win the rubber match here. They will be the Super Bowl 58 champions. It will possibly be another shootout. It'll be interesting to see what type of defense the Eagles will have for Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. What type of moves will Kansas City have made to get to this point? What will their defense be? It's going to be a great quarterback battle. It's going to be a great head coaching battle. I mean, it's going to be a great mismatch battle, really. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot to take into consideration because we will be having a Super Bowl rematch. But you just got to be realistic with how these records play out, how the schedules play out. That's why I have a Super Bowl rematch coming this year. I feel like when I look back and do these types of predictions, more often than not, I have a Super Bowl rematch, or unless it was my first year podcasting, I was just a major Saints homer and had the Saints win in the Super Bowl because I decided to start a podcast the year after the no call happened. Not ironically, that just so happened to be when I decided to finally start chasing my dreams. But you've got it here on the NFL with AJL. I'll put out the AFC I'll put out the AFC playoff picture. I'll put out the NFC playoff picture with the Super Bowl rematch of the Chiefs and the Eagles. The Eagles win the rubber match. Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Jalen Hurts is Super Bowl MVP. And if you didn't have the respect before, you most definitely have the respect now, as he will outplay Patrick Mahomes possibly in this game. Even though Mahomes didn't outplay Hurts, he's still won the Super Bowl MVP. So I believe Jalen Hurts will win the Super Bowl MVP here. That was a packed episode 37, guys. I had to scratch LSU and FSU. I have not forgot about the Who Dat Corner as well. We're going to be doing the Who Dat Corner on Friday. That's when we'll have our next show coming for episode 38. of the NFL with AJL. You'll already know we'll be previewing the Lions at Chiefs because that game is coming in hot on Thursday Night Football. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Woo! What a damn show. What a packed show. Episode 37. We're rolling out. We discussed Deion and Colorado arriving. You've got my NFL power rankings. You've got my complete NFL predictions. You've got my Super Bowl prediction. You've heard me talk about Chris Jones and how the Chiefs need to bring him back. Mike Evans could be dealt for that trade deadline deal, though. As always, I couldn't do it without you guys. Before you get out of here, please like the stream, text the link to somebody, put it on your story, drop me a comment, subscribe on YouTube. You've been doing great with all those. Thank you for the love on YouTube. It's turning out to be one of my best months. Thank you for the love on social. Thank you for the love on the podcast platforms. You see the QR code here in the corner of the screen. Scan that for every bit of the NFL with AJL content and podcast content and social media content. If you can't find me, you're simply not looking hard enough at the NFL with AJL on all social media platforms. Episode 38 will be coming on Friday. I wanted to get some Super Bowl matchups out there just in general of teams I can see going to the Super Bowl, not necessarily holding predictions into account. The Holdout corner will be back. We will be picking every game. We will be talking about some potential college football games. As always, love ya, need ya, see ya.